or not, but there is something which we usually call as a paradox. What is paradox usually? So let's say many of the students who are basically not from the science background, for us hopefully it's not the case until and unless you're forced by your parents or peer pressure because of which you have taken up engineering. But in general, you see, we all actually love science. But people who are actually thinking that science is not a very friendly subject, for them this story actually holds. Okay, might be. Suppose there is a time machine. Okay, understand the importance of this with respect to this chapter. Suppose there is a time machine and you can go back in time. So I bought the time machine. I go back in time and stop the apple falling on Newton's head. That is actually how the story goes. We really don't know whether this is the real story or not. But anyway, we'll stick to this theory. So apple falls on Newton's head. Doesn't We don't allow it. Okay, we go by time machine. So Newton doesn't find out these laws of motion and all those things. Okay, that was not there. And then many scientists are inspired by Newton, which in turn inspires other. So they are also not into science because Newton was not there to inspire them. So finally what happens, we don't have physics, we don't have engineering, we don't have anything which related with science. But then the problem is, if those persons were not inspired by science, eventually the time machine would not have been built. And if the time machine was not built, you would not have an option of going back and not allowing the apple to fall on Newton's head. So this is something which is basically called a paradox. Okay, these things are called paradox. Obviously, this is a story, but this is an idea or a paradox idea. Okay, so based on this, actually, these things, there are a lot of theories which are actually developed, and then we also have a branch which is called the branch of relativity. So today we are going to start with relativity. We are going to stick to the syllabus, and we are not going to extend it too much because we have got a limited number of classes. So what happens usually is that when we talk about relativity, okay, I'll stay in a very noisy environment. So what happens in relativity usually is that we actually tackle some specific problems. Okay, so if you consider any engineering course, and then this is the typical syllabus that usually have when the syllabus has relativity into it. And then we have got the special theory of relativity. The question straight away comes that if there is a special theory of relativity, what about general theory of relativity? We are just going to see a simple difference between the two. I know all of you must have heard about, or all of you must study these topics, but anyway, since this is a summer term, it's important that we do it. Okay, so then we have got the result of the Michelson-Morley experiment. So if you have heard something called ether, okay, if we have heard about something called ether, we basically have the world moving, and we are actually having the universe in some source, some kind of resource called ether within that. Okay, so that ether can be considered as a frame of reference. Based on that, the motion of the earth and everything is measured using this Michelson-Morley experiment. Then we have got the postulates of special theory of relativity. So basically this is the rule which special theory of relativity follows. Then we have got the Galilean transformation, okay, and then the Lorentz transformation. So we are going to go into these Galilean and Lorentz transformation, and we are going to explore what exactly are these. Okay, that is also part of the syllabus. Okay, so if you actually go to just wait, my pen got this. Okay. So then we have got something which is called simultaneity. Simultaneity is basically talking about the events which are happening at a simultaneous time. Okay, two events occurring at the same time. And then we have got Lang contraction, very important from your examination point of view. The frames of reference concept is important here. Anyway, we are going to revisit that topic. And then we have got something which we call as the time dilation. So all these relations are actually important. And then we have got addition of velocity. So this is an important relation from numerical point of view. Okay, so finally variation of mass, velocity, mass and energy. Okay, these things, and then space-time viewpoint. So probably we are not going to discuss all these topics and four vectors. So what we are going to focus on is these. Okay, so please mark this, which will be there for your exams probably. So this is special theory of relativity is important. Postulates of special theory of relativity is important. Galilean transformation and Lorentz transformation, we are just going to look into the difference. We are not going to go into a detailed description because we don't have that much time, because this probably is a 1 month or so syllabus. And then we are going to go and look into one problem based on simultaneity, and then the length contraction. Time dilation is also there. I'll include that. Okay, and addition of vectors, we will do that. This probably we might not do, but if we have time, we will actually tackle the relation between relativistic mass and real mass. Okay, so let's keep this under question mark. Okay, and then we are not going to tackle with these two. Okay, so more or less these are the topics that we are going to start. But before we start, let's just go into the very basics. What is the difference between the general theory of relativity and special theory of relativity? So if you go back to relativity, I can probably use the previous slide. And if you go back to relativity, we can actually talk about something which is called the uh, axis. Okay, so these axes, if you consider, these are nothing but considered as frames of reference. So if you have got two frames of reference, suppose this is one more frames of reference. Okay, and then what happens is this frame of reference is actually not moving, so it is stopped, and this frame of reference is moving with a velocity v. So this is your velocity v, and then this velocity v is with respect to this. Okay, with respect to this frame of reference. So what does it mean in simple language? That you and your friend might be in two different buses. Okay, you and your friend might be in two different buses, and then your bus might be in standstill position, so your velocity will be more or less 0. Okay, but your friend's bus might be moving at some velocity. Let's say it's moving very slow. Let's say it's 2 kilometer per hour. Okay, so 2 kilometer per hour. So what does it mean? It means that your friend is at rest with respect to his own bus. So this is his frame of reference, the bus. So he is at rest. But when he looks at you, he sees that you are moving at a speed of 2 kilometer per hour. So that means the other frame in which he looks is basically the moving frame. Okay. So here also it's the same case. So basically what happens is it depends on the observer's point of view. So you are observing from your frame of reference and something is within your bus. You see that the motion is not there. The motion is more or less nil, right? But if you are observing something which is in another frame of reference, which is basically moving at some speed, you can say that there is a motion which is there with respect to your frame of reference. So this is what is the frame of reference is all about, and this is exactly what we are going to tackle now. So what is general theory of relativity? So you see these things which are called general and the special theory of relativity was Einstein's idea. And then if we consider something as general theory of relativity, this is more or less practical in nature. Any motion or any body which is usually moving will have some kind of acceleration involved. Okay, there will be velocity. Okay, definitely, and if the velocity keeps on changing at every point, definitely there is an acceleration. Okay, so the gravitation part is definitely considered. So if there is acceleration, the gravitation is there. So this case where we actually consider an accelerated system, okay, that means the velocity v is definitely there for the other frame of reference, but then it is changing at some point of time. Okay, so that means there is some kind of acceleration, because acceleration is rate of change of velocity. This is Einstein's idea on general theory of relativity, but then initially it was a special theory of relativity. In special theory of relativity, we actually consider a system moving with constant velocity. So if you have got that example which I have given in the previous slide, and your friend is moving at a speed of 2 kilometer per second or per hour, then what happens is basically that motion is more or less constant, that velocity is more or less constant, and hence we say that it comes under the category of special theory of relativity. So in general, if you consider an accelerated system, it's general theory, which also includes gravitation. On the other hand, if you consider the special theory, we are only considering a constant velocity, which is less practical, but it's there, these cases are there. And we are just going to study on special theory of relativity. Because I hope you understand that when we include acceleration or gravitation into the picture, the problem becomes more complex. So at this level, we are not going for the general theory. We are talking about a special theory of relativity. How do we really prove these things? Actually, there are something which is called thought experiments, and thought experiments are usually used to prove these things, which basically follows a kind of logical sequence. So let's talk about the first topic, which is the inertial reference frame. So whatever we are going to talk about from now onwards is going to be more or less in terms of special theory of relativity. So the first thing is what is a reference frame, right? So the reference frame, or basically an inertial reference frame, is a frame where the Newton's laws are valid. So all of us are more or less familiar with the Newton's three laws. Okay, the first law, okay, everybody continues in its state of motion, okay, or rest in a straight line until and unless compelled by an external force. So if there is an external force moving the body, till then that will be actually in rest. So basically this deals with more or less inertia. The second law, the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the impressed force. Okay, we have studied that in a bit in classical mechanics. And third is the one which we all love because we can remember it easily. To every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, right? So these laws are more or less valid in these frames of reference, and then they are called the inertial frames. So what happens is, if we actually have a frame which is established when a body is not subjected to a net external force, is observed to move in a rectilinear motion at constant velocity. So this is actually quite simple. What happens is, usually if you actually have this axis, and then we have got one more axis, and then we are basically going to consider the x, the y and the z axis. This is one frame of reference. And then we basically have got the second frame, let's say the primed system. Okay, so you will always come across this term, the primed system and the unprimed system. So this is the primed system, just to make a differentiation. And let's say the motion is not upwards, okay, it is not upwards, okay, or it is not coming out of the plane of the presentation. That means it is doesn't have any three-dimensional picture into it. It is only moving along the x-axis. So this is something which is basically called the rectilinear motion. Okay, this is what is called the rectilinear motion at constant velocity. So we're considering a rectilinear motion here, and we are keeping it simple. Please remember, this might not be practical because sometimes it might happen that the motion might be along x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, and that will be more practical in nature. But then we are not tackling these problems right now. Then there is something which is called the Newtonian principle of relativity, or Galilean invariance. This has to do something which is with which we call as the special theory of relativity. Okay, and then you understand what is invariance because last unit when we talked about classical mechanics, we actually studied the topic which we call as invariance. Okay, because we said that the momentum does not change, or it remains more or less constant, so the rate of change of momentum is basically zero. Okay, so this is something which is dealing with invariance. So invariance means a quantity which actually doesn't change, okay, might be with time. So what this says is that if Newton's laws, okay, if Newton's laws are valid in one reference frame, so we have got two reference frames just like in the previous slide, then actually they are also valid in another reference frame, okay, moving at a uniform velocity. So if that other system is moving at a uniform velocity relative to the first system, just as the example of bus that I said, or the example of the previous reference frame that I said, in both the cases they are moving with a uniform velocity relative to the first system, and hence here the Newton's laws are more or less valid. That means the Newton law doesn't change, and that is what is called invariance. Okay, so there is no change, and that is called invariance. So when we basically consider inertial frames K and K dash, I'll come into more diagrams here. I think it will be more easy. So this is what is happening. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are basically considering two systems. Okay, one is let's say K, okay, and the other is more or less K dash, and then this K dash is moving with a velocity v. So that means this frame of reference is more or less constant. Please remember, how do you exactly select the frames of reference? How do we exactly select the frames of reference is actually something which depends on you from where you are actually considering the entire picture. So that is important. So arbitrarily we usually draw it like this, okay? So it depends on where the observer is, okay? So if we consider, let's say the observer is here, so we have this point where the observer is there, and then there is one more observer here. So if something is happening here, with respect to this observer, there is no motion. But with respect to this observer, there is motion. This is a very simple concept, but important to understand in order to appreciate the importance of this particular chapter, okay? And then what are the conditions that we have here is these, okay? Okay, I went to the previous slide. Okay. Yeah. So K is at rest and K dash is moving with velocity V, okay? But V got misplaced, don't worry. Axes are parallel. So for convenience, we are considering the axis to be parallel. Please remember that might not be an ideal case, but right now we're doing that, okay? And then we have got K and K dash are said to be the inertial coordinate system. So I think all of us are very comfortable with what are coordinate systems, okay? So if we consider K dash, the coordinates here are X dash, Y dash and Z dash. And if you consider this is nothing but X, Y, Z. You will have some numericals which will actually deal with these, okay? So please try to understand this fact. Then comes the first important question, which is called the postulates of special theory of relativity. So what is the first postulate? So the first postulate says that all laws of nature are same in all uniformly moving frames of reference. So this is something which you have actually come across, okay? This is already there. Excuse me. So this is something which we actually talked about, okay? So this is also called Galilean invariance. Now, what about your exam? What kind of question? So the question might be, what is the postulate, special theory of relativity, postulates of special theory of relativity. There are two postulates. A separate question might be, what is Galilean invariance? So the first postulate itself is the Galilean invariance. So please don't get confused, okay? If the question is given in that way, I'm sure definitely you'd be able to answer. But anyway, at the end of the class, we are going to list down those questions, okay? So that we remember. So the first postulate states that all laws of nature are the same in all uniformly moving frames of reference. And what does it mean? It means that if we consider a flipping of a coin, okay, on a plane that is moving with constant velocity, it is no different than if flipped while standing still. So you are actually standing somewhere and flipping a coin, and if you are moving and you are flipping the same coin, there is no difference between the two, because in both the cases either both you and the coin are at rest, and in the second case both you and the coin are basically moving, okay? So the laws of nature will hold in both the cases. So this is the first postulate of special theory of relativity. And what about the second postulate? The second postulate talks more about space and time. So more specifically, if you remember this figure, I think this is actually a good memory trigger, okay, during exams, if you can remember this. Whether you go to any kind of space and time, the ratio between space and time will more or less remain constant, which is nothing but the speed of light. So the speed of light c in empty space will always have the same value regardless of the motion of the source or the observer, okay? So this will always remain important. This is also important in terms of something which we call as a space-time continuum, okay? But anyway, we are not going to go into these concepts. If you are interested, you can definitely follow, because these are all very interesting things, okay? There are some free ebooks available on the internet on relativity that talks about a lot of paradoxes. You can definitely read that, okay? Okay, then we have got something which is called Galilean transformation, something which is again very important from your examination point of view, and you need to remember these relations, okay? The derivation of these relations are really not very difficult, okay? These are very simple derivations. So for this, let's say consider I have got a point, okay, P, and it is in the system K, okay? So please remember, if I consider the system K, that means I am considering the coordinates x, y, z, okay? And in that particular system, I have got a point P, which has got the coordinate x, y, z, and t. Time we also consider, because that is important. Why? Because we are considering a system moving with velocity v, and then velocity is something which is dependent on time. So definitely time is a very important factor in considering these kind of systems. And let's consider another system, let's say K dash, where there is a point P, okay, but then there it is actually having a different coordinate, x dash, y dash, z dash, and t dash, okay, a different coordinate system. So this is something which we are actually assuming, okay, and this will actually give us the Galilean transformation, okay. So I hope I can actually show it to you, okay. This is very simple. What happens is with respect to P, okay, we have got the coordinate system x, y, z, and then we don't have any motion along y axis or z axis. We have the motion only along the x axis, okay. So what happens is if this is actually moving at a constant velocity vt, and vt basically has got a dimension of distance, okay, or displacement we can say. So this has got a dimension of displacement. So that means this is nothing but distance minus the distance. Definitely we are getting the x dash coordinate system, okay. So this is the only variation that usually happens in your Galilean transformation. The other things more or less remains the same. What does it mean? That x dash will become x minus vt. I have it in the next slide, but anyway, let's explain this here. And then y dash will be y, z dash will be z, and t dash will remain as t. So basically the time doesn't change, okay. We are basically considering or measuring the velocity at a particular given time. So time doesn't change. The z and the y coordinate doesn't change because it doesn't have a motion upwards or out of the plane of this presentation. But we do have a motion along the x-axis with a velocity v. So the coordinates will basically, or the position at a point where the velocity is v at a time t will basically change. So this is why that x coordinate usually changes. So you have to please remember this, okay, and don't get confused here. So what is Galilean transformation about? It's like actually talking about parallel axis, okay, and then we have got k dash. It has got a constant relative velocity in the x direction with respect to k. Please remember these points because these are important, okay, if you want to explain what is Galilean transformation. And I have not written too many shortcuts with the answers so that you can directly note it down and remember it. Time t for all the observer is a fundamental invariant. So basically the time doesn't change, and that is what I said, that what happens in the previous slide is I am considering t will remain as t, okay. So time doesn't change, so this is basically a fundamental invariant, and that means that it is same for all the inertial observers. So what happens is if you are in the reference frame k or you are in the reference frame k dash, the time will more or less remain the same. So this is your Galilean transformation. So I want all of you to please note this down, okay, because this is important from your examination point of view. Also this is important if you are going to solve any kind of numericals, okay. And this is more or less relativity has become something which is more or less very common. Down the line, if you are basically going for any kind of placement in your fourth year or in your third year, and sometimes you have interviewers who will actually come and ask you some basic questions on physics, okay. There are people who are coming from the physics background, okay. There are a lot of companies who have them, okay, and then what they concentrate usually is on the physics syllabus that you study. They are not going to ask you much about class 11, 12 syllabus, so don't worry about rotational dynamics or too much of quantum mechanics, okay. But whatever you have in your syllabus, that is more or less important, okay. We have a part of quantum mechanics in your syllabus also, I think, but I think nuclear is more or less not there, even if there is very less. But relativity is a very important topic where you might be asked questions. So this is also important from your job point of view, okay, future prospect. So please remember these things. These are all fundamental things. They will never ask you for derivations, but they will ask you some relations and let's say they might ask you explain relativity or tell me what is the difference between special theory and general theory of relativity. So if you're really interested for these jobs, these things might help, okay. So I think this will be a good resource for you, and since I'm keeping it as a video record, you can always revisit and learn these things. So there is something which is called the inverse relation, and inverse relation is very simple to remember if you remember the straightforward relation of Galilean transformation, or as a matter of fact any of the relations that you are actually going to tackle, all of them has got a reference or inverse relation. What do you mean by inverse relation? It means that you are considering the coordinates, or you are considering the relation when you are in the x coordinate. You can also consider the relation where you are in the x dash coordinate, or you are considering a relation when you are in the k frame. You can also consider the same where in the k dash frame. So when you are in the k dash frame, everything usually reverses. Okay, so what happens is this v will more or less become v dash. Okay, so this v will more or less become a v dash, first thing, and then you actually will replace the primed quantity with unprimed. Okay, and unprimed with prime. So that means if one side there is a prime coordinate, it will become unprimed, and the unprimed will become prime. Okay, and then this relation becomes something like this. Okay, so I have not put both on the same slide. I should have done that, but anyway, you see v will become plus v in inverse relation. So then this will x dash, and prime will become unprimed. So x will become x dash will become x, and x will become x dash. So this is there, and plus vt. So this is the change. Okay, we are going to come across Lorentz transformation. There also we are going to see something similar. So you have to remember this. So this y will become y, and this will become y dash, and then z will become z dash will become z, and z will become z dash, and then this will become t, and this will become t dash. Okay, so some of you might think, okay, mathematically if we say, then what is the importance of having y is equal to y dash, or y dash is equal to y? More or less they mean the same. Well, mathematically yes, they more or less mean the same, but then usually what happens is, if we are putting something on the left hand side, this is the quantity in which we are interested in. That means the left hand side more or less should be found out or known, so that we can actually predict what will be the right hand side value. So this is why, like, y dash is equal to y and y is equal to y dash are both not the same when we actually think about it in that way. Okay, here we are interested in finding out what is the value of x if we know what is the value of x dash, v and t. Okay, so this is why we are actually interchanging this. So anyway, this is basically called the inverse relation. So this inverse relation is also valid in our next topic, because we are also going to come across something which we call as Lorentz transformation. And Lorentz transformation usually is not complicated, but what happens is, here we are actually going to consider the speed of light. Okay, so this is more or less more relative in nature. And then if we actually come across these relations, these are the relations that you should definitely remember. Okay, the first thing is x dash is equal to x minus vt, and then I actually have divided by root over of 1 minus v square by c square. So you have to remember this. Okay, and then sometimes you actually will find out a relation called beta, and then sometimes it is written in terms of gamma. Okay, so gamma is usually taken as 1 divided by root over, okay, whether I have written it, I think I have included it somewhere. Okay, I have included it. Okay, but anyway, we are not going to go into this then. Okay, so but anyway I have written it, so why not complete this. Okay, this in my pen. Okay, so this is 1 minus v square divided by c square. Okay, this is this. Okay, and then beta is usually nothing but v divided by c. So if you actually follow different books, more or less they will follow the same convention. And then we have got a y dash is equal to y, and then we have got z dash is equal to z. And then what is t dash? T dash is actually slightly more complicated. T minus vx divided by c square into divided by root over of 1 minus v square by c square. I am not going to go into the derivation of this, because it will be a bit too much for 10 marks from this particular unit if it is done, and we don't have that much time to cover up in summer terms. So but then this derivation is also important. Might be in future we can actually do it if we have time. So then let's come to the difference between Galilean and Lorentz transformation in terms of equation, and also in terms of some basic definition. Okay, this is the topic at which we are going to end today. So this Galilean transformation, okay, please remember this, or try to understand this very carefully. Okay, okay, so what we have is this: x dash is equal to x minus vt, y dash is equal to y, z dash is equal to z, t dash is equal to t. We have seen that, and this is more or less valid for low velocity. What do I mean by low velocity? It means that the velocity that we are considering, which is v, is not comparable to the speed of light. That is the only logic. Okay, nothing else. It's like not comparable to the speed of light, something which is more conventional and more or less we can realize it. Okay, so that is where low velocity comes into the picture. This is one difference. And in Lorentz transformation, the main difference is this. Okay, what happens is we actually have an involvement of C. Okay, we have C here, and then we have got C here, and then we have got C here. Okay, and I have already included this, but in previous slide we will. Okay, what happened to the pen? Okay, so we have this and we have this relation. Please remember these relations because you will be asked numerical questions, and based on this formula you can solve them. I'm definitely going to discuss some numericals also, so don't worry. So try to remember these. Okay, these are very important, and I cannot stress on the fact that how important are these. Okay, this is probably the most important part of uh, relativity. So if you have learned the subject of relativity at any level, you basically cannot do away with Galilean and Lorentz transformation. And of course, this is actually valid for high velocities. Okay, there should be only one velocity. I made it so high that I've written it 2 times. Okay, anyway, so this is high velocity. So okay, let's just go for this final slide. Okay, before we end, I think this is also important. How do we actually go from Lorentz to Galilean transformation? So what I said is that if we consider a low velocity, then there should be Galilean transformation, else it is Lorentz transformation. So if I go from, let's say, this end to this end, that means if I consider this C, which is the speed of light, to be very, very low, then does this relation change to this relation, and does this relation change to this relation? Okay, and that is why we actually do the next thing, which is called Galilean to Lorentz transformation. So as you can see, I've written it, scanned it, and uploaded it, so it takes actually some time. But anyway, so what happens is we have got this particular relation, which is nothing but the Lorentz transformation, and we will consider that the velocity is less. Okay, so the velocity is less. Okay, sorry, in the previous slide I made this mistake. This should not be definitely C. It's not C, right? It's V. The velocity is less. Low velocity, not speed of light. Speed of light will remain more or less constant. Anyway. Okay, so we have this. So if we consider this velocity to be very low, what happens is this. If this is low and this is high, obviously C is 3 into 10 to the power 8, this particular quantity approaches 0. Okay, it basically approaches 0. So we can actually assume it to be almost 0 under limiting condition. So root over of 1 minus 0 is 1. So we can just simply write it down. 80. So this is actually what is Lorentz to Galilean transformation gets into. Okay, so I might ask you this question: show that when the velocity is low, Lorentz transformation is actually transforming to Galilean transformation. So please remember these things. Okay. Anyway, we don't have to tackle with y, z, and z dash, thankfully, because they are more or less remaining the constant. Okay, and then what happens with t dash? This is slightly more complicated. Here, what happens? C is very high. So if C is very high, if C is okay, just wait. I'm missing out my pen. It's too small to have a look. Okay, so we actually have this C here, and then we have got V into X. Now V into X is a small quantity compared to C, so this divided by this will more or less become 0. On the other hand, V by C, again as the previous case, will more or less become 0. So it will approach 0. Okay, saying that it becomes 0 won't be correct, but it approaches 0, very small quantity. So we can approximately say that T dash is equal to T. Okay, so that's where I actually want to stop for today's class. We have given a basic definition of our understanding, of developed a basic understanding of relativity, which is actually important.